So here's the real reason why all the pros use two capos to make the guitar sound amazing. So you got your mics, you got your capos, and there we are. How does it sound? That sounds amazing. The only thing is now you can your favorite. Playing the acoustic guitar and also understanding the rich history that comes with it is truly one of the most rewarding things to do. So in this video, which is a celebration of the launch of my brand new guitar course, Acoustic Adventure, I'm going over my path, my philosophy to get good at acoustic. This road is a reflection of the material that will be inside the course, so if you dig it, you might want to check it out at acousticadventure.com. Anyway, here is the road I would follow if I were to do it all again. Let's be honest here. There's a whole bunch of people that see the acoustic guitar as nothing more than the right tool by that campfire, playing those same old cowboy chords, and yeah, that is a lovely way to start on the acoustic, and it's of course essential for every beginner to learn the open chords. So from C major to G, and maybe even the minor chords from D minor to A minor. So after some practice and getting down that basic strumming pattern, we can play something like this. But we've all been there, this starts to get boring real quick. So an inevitable moment is that of discovering percussive elements like a muted strum or even palm mutes. Yeah! This really brings another level of depth to the sound, maybe even simulating a drummer being there with you. It sounds like this. But you still sound like that generic campfire guy. So you keep on exploring and soon you start to realize you can get so much more out of these ostensibly basic chords. You experiment with putting that finger extra on the strings. And you can do that with every chord you learn so far. You read about sus2 chords, sus4 chords, and maybe even try playing that C at 9 chord. Hallelujah. And bless you, from that moment everything changes. You may not fully understand what it is, but you hear it sounds amazing and you start to see the potential of what you just discovered. Wow, you are killing it, the star of every party, until something goes horribly wrong. You make a mistake. Wait a second, that sounded awesome. By accident you discovered arpeggios, arpeggiare, and this is where you pick the individual strings instead of all the strings together. And this opens up a whole new world, especially if you combine this with knowledge of the levels before and a magical element you just discovered called a hammer-on. Like this. And then one day you're feeling particularly adventurous and you see there's at least 15 frets that you never even touched before. You discover you can actually move your hand out of that first position, and it feels a bit rusty at first, but this is very promising. First you slide up that C major chord. You realize it sounds like a D, but then just way more awesome. But you also finally grasp that for every open chord, there's a version higher up. Sick. And a few days later, you're flying even higher, discovering the same chord, but then over here. And exploring the fretboard that way finally makes you realize that that hashtag from Twitter and that weird lowercase b actually means something in music. If you put it after a note, you slide the whole thing down for a flat, and you slide the whole thing up for a sharp. And you can turn every single chord up here into a minor chord as well. And this leads to you playing every catchy chord progression in all different keys there are, like C sharp minor, feels like the guitar has been discovered. There are no more mysteries for you anymore. You are nailing it. And the coolest thing, combine these chords higher up with open string. So here's the same chord progression as before, but now spiced up. And what about combining this with arpeggios? Let's mix the same chord up a bit and use that technique. And yes, you are definitely nailing it. But the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. You heard about scales, pentatonic, major, minor, and sometimes you see folks playing and they blur the line between a chord and then noodle something, a scale, and then it hits you. Scales can actually sound great in the right context. We're finally able to understand that you can link a pentatonic scale to a chord and how it works within the key. For example, when playing this E major chord, you can add any note from the E major pentatonic scale to it and it sounds magical. And then you can add another chord and you can do the same with that one. So you've got two chords. You are making great strides. You've got the wind at your back, but then one day, although you bought 10 last month, you cannot find a single pick. They disappeared into the void. Desperately, you're browsing YouTube what to play, and you stumble upon this annoying beard guy with a weird accent telling you there's only one finger picking pattern you need, Travis picking. And although you thought it wasn't really your thing, you are mesmerized by how it sounds and you try your best to give it a go. And oh mein God, weird accent guy. This is amazing. You are totally mesmerized by the sound of this. This leads to you questioning where this all comes from. Turns out Merle Travis was a country guy, a genre of course heavily influenced by the blues. And this far you might not have given it too much attention, but somehow you were always captivated by these blues classics you heard. You just never thought it was actually possible to play them, but you dive in and learn that the picking patterns actually resemble what you've learned before, and by putting it in the blues context of that dominant seventh sound, it sounds just like these classics. And then a bell goes off. Of course, 12-bar blues, you've heard the term before, but now it actually starts to make sense. Most of these blues classics follow the pattern using the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord out of the key, creating a 12-bar blues. You got the turnaround down real nice, but sometimes you feel like this is missing something. You may want to be able to play melodies or even solos over the blues. And you can play them interwoven with the chords like this. But there's also a sweet way where you play the bass note on every quarter note. And at the same time play a melody over it. And you saw that same annoying beard guy again play the thing that actually sounded pretty awesome. Still following the classic 12 bars, but a more modern sound. And this put you on an entirely different journey, discovering the rich history of the swampy Delta blues sound. amazed by your own progress, you go for a walk and there's your pick. Do you still need it though? Of course, but also getting into fingerpicking massively broadened your view on a guitar. You now try to play that same blues, rhythm and lead together, getting into that call and response thing vibe. You're also low-key starting to understand the concept of mixing up different scales like minor and major pentatonic, Mixolydian, Dorian even. Wow. And now you find yourself free enough to play with or without a pick. From playing fingerpicking chords with melodies on top and adding a rhythmic slap to it all. Or you play a set of basic chords but you spice them up by keeping a theme on top and combining it with hammer-ons and pull-off. Or you're improvising on just a few chords, just riffing, noodling away. And this is a beautiful journey, and this is nowhere near the end. This is maybe not even harder than the other stuff you were playing, or like the highest level you can reach. But playing this, you find yourself playing more free than ever, circling back to all the things you've learned. Maybe blues isn't your main thing, maybe it is, but you're realizing that each and every aspect shape you in the player you are today. From beautiful open chords to arpeggiated chords to flying high on the neck, adding scales to your playing, fingerpicking blues, you became so much better at understanding where all these things come from, which is just amazing also for understanding modern day music. And that is exactly the whole point of why I made this new acoustic guitar course, Acoustic Adventure. I got videos on YouTube playing the acoustic guitar, teaching the acoustic guitar, sure, but I got so many requests to make a step-by-step program going through the various aspects that make the acoustic guitar so great. So I did it. I hope this whirlwind tour actually gave you some insights into the things you can learn on the acoustic guitar. And of course, the path may be really different for everyone, but in the end, we all hope to get to that same place. A versatile acoustic guitarist, and that's exactly what I'm going for in my new course, Acoustic Adventure, for the intermediate guitarist. So if this resonated with you, head over to acousticadventure.com to see all the ins and outs of the course. And I really wish you a lovely, lovely day. Cheers.